Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Play Red Dead, where we play Red Dead Redemption 2 and tell cowboy stories. And as promised, we are going to continue the story of Wyatt Earp and bring it up current with Tombstone, Arizona, so that we can tell the stories of Doc and Wyatt Earp together in Tombstone, because it is mixed in so fiercely there's no point in trying to separate it. Alright, now, around 1875, Dodge City, Kansas became a major terminal for cattle drivers and coming in from Texas. Okay. So there were plenty of other things that happened with Wyatt, but nothing too notable until he moved to Dodge. He had done a little bit of law work here and there. He shot a man or two, but nothing really big. He's just moving. He was a drifter for the most part. Moved place to place to place to place, trying to make it big. And he got bored easy. But he was appointed an assistant marshal in Dodge City under Marshal Lawrence Digger in May of 1876. Okay. This is where he met Mattie Blaylock. It was his common law wife until 1881. But he spent a little bit of time in Dodge City, and in late 1876, him and his brother Morgan left for Deadwood to the Dakota Territory because they heard about the gold boom up in Deadwood. Now, by the time they got there, all the claims had been taken. So Morgan, he decided to leave Deadwood and head back to Dodge, and Wyatt stayed for a little while. He bought the timber rights to some land and moved wood throughout the winter and stuff. He ended up making about $5,000 profit, which was not bad, but at the same time, it wasn't what he wanted. He couldn't file any claims. Everything was already taken, so he went ahead and returned to Dodge City the following spring and rejoined the police force in Dodge City in 1877. Let's see. So he did a lot of things in Dodge, but he worked for Dodge for a couple of months when a bank robber named David Rutterborough, train robber, robbed the Santa Fe Railroad construction camp, and he fled south. Now, Earp was given a temporary commission as a deputy U.S. Marshal to leave Dodge City following Rutterborough, and he followed him over 400 miles through Fort Clark, Texas, where the newspaper reported his presence in January of 1876. And then he followed him on to Fort Griffin. And this is where he met Doc Holliday. And their friendship began to flourish. Now, after he met Doc, he headed back to Dodge, and then Doc ended up coming up to Dodge sometime later.
Son of a whore.
Now, in July of 1878, around 3 in the morning, George Hoyt and a couple other drunken cowboys were shooting their guns wildly in the streets, and 3 shots into the Dodge City's theater, causing a comedian, Sir Eddie Foy, to throw himself to the stage floor in the middle of his act. Unfortunately, no one was injured, but Assistant Marshal Earp and policeman Bat Masterson responded along with several citizens and opened fire with their pistols at the fleeing horsemen. Now, the riders crossed the Arkansas River Bridge south of town, but Hoyt fell from his horse, wounded in the arm or leg. Earp later told biographer Stuart Lake that he saw Hoyt through the sights of his gun, illuminated against the morning horizon, and he fired a fatal shot which killed him that day. There's been some dispute as to whether or not Earp killed this man. What I would say is that that's slightly exaggerated. The man did die a few days later, but he did die from that gunshot wound. The gunshot wound became infected and it killed him. So yeah, that was the cause of his death. If he had not been shot, he would not have become infected. He would not have died. The dispute historians are trying to have about this is saying that Wyatt Earp didn't kill him at all. Science looks at things from a cause and effect type of scenario. He died from an infection that was caused from a gunshot wound from Wyatt Earp. It was very common for people to die day or even 2 days later from being shot. If it got infected, or if the bullet was lodged in a bad place, or so on. That was a very common thing, and a lot of the times it would be attributed to the person who shot him, because they would not have died had they not been shot. So the historians of today are starting to try and get a little nitpicky about some of that, where they're like, oh, well, he didn't actually kill him. It's like, well, yeah, he kind of did. It's just like, he didn't kill him immediately. You're correct about that. It took 2 days for the man to die, and that's probably worse, for being truthful. But in either case, I wanted to say that because I want to say I'm going to tell these stories the way the historians of the day wrote them down. And we kind of talked about that last time too. I want to tell these stories the way the historians wrote them down. The people who were there, the people who saw it, not the way people are trying to tear things apart nowadays. So, in either case, Dodge City had been a frontier cow town for several years, but by 1879 it had begun to settle down. Virgil Earp was a town constable in Prescott, Arizona territory, and he wrote to Wyatt about opportunities in silver mining in a boomtown of Tombstone. He later wrote, or Wyatt later wrote, in 1879, Dodge was beginning to lose much of its snap, which had given it the charm to a man of reckless blood, and I decided to move to Tombstone, which was just building up a reputation.
The debt will be paid when I can pay it, sir. There's nothing more I can say.
We're going to go ahead and end this here, because that brings Wyatt up current with Doc. And then we're going to do an episode about Tombstone. And there's a lot about Tombstone. I think I can get it all in one episode, but I'm not sure. So, we're going to see.
Please, I have a family, sir. Please.
I hope you all enjoy. I hope you've been enjoying these cowboy stories. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Believe me, sir.
And
I didn't want this either.
have a wonderful week.
You ain't such a do-gooder, are you? If you're running out on debts...
I'm not running anywhere. I'm doing my best for you. This is not forgiveness of my debt. This is just a stay.
You are a slippery little bastard. But I got you now.
Please, please, show some compassion. Please.
If I'm here, there's a reason I'm here. You borrowed money from my business partner, Herr Strauss. You owe him, you took the money. He wants it back. What's not to understand? Where's our money?
I don't have it.
Sell your place.
We already owe more than it's worth.
Then sell your wife, or your family, or something. We ain't your idea of charity. Is that clear?
Thomas!
What are you looking at?
Thomas!
I said, what you looking at, woman?
My husband isn't well. If we could just have more...
Like I said, we ain't nobody's idea of charity. Get us the money.
Ah, how did you get on?
Not so good. He's almost dead. And they seem more or less destitute. You were a fool for lending them the money.
Well, people who aren't desperate don't seem so interested in my propositions.
Of course.